What's up, gravel junkies? We have a very gravel-licious pack chatter coming at you. 3-part series. This is the first of 3, and I'm really excited to get you into it. So, but first, we'll hit sponsors. We're starting with Legacy Bikes. That's Legacy with an I. LEGACI bikes.com. Legacy Bikes has all your balance bike needs for your little ones. So get your little one up on 2 wheels and get them riding at Legacy Bikes. We're also sponsored by NISBRA, the New York State Bicycle Racing Association. NISBRA is responsible for all the behind-the-scenes work at racing in New York State, whether you're talking about grants or upgrades or permits or officials or balancing calendars, all that really tough stuff that nobody really wants to do, but it really needs to be done, and these guys do it with a passion and do it really well. So show them some love, follow them on Facebook, and hit them up on their website for lots of great resources. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what we got for you in store here. So my original thought was to put all of this together in one episode, but as I got kind of deeper into it, I realized it's going to hopefully play a lot better and have a lot more depth by providing a little mini series of 3. So the original thought was to get a hold of some of my friends who have done these really big gravel rides, these national sort of level, if you will, gravel events around the country, and talk to them about, what's drawn them there, why are they there, where did they come from before they came to these events, and what are they seeing now. And ended up with 3 really cool conversations that include 4 different people. 4 different people who I respect a ton and have known for many years in different capacities, and seen all 4 of them race at different levels and develop at different levels, and seeing them tackle these giant iconic gravel events now has been kind of cool to see it from afar, and certainly was really cool to talk to each one of them about their perspectives on why they do it and what they've done. So between the 4 of them, they've hit Land Run, DK, Rebecca's, Gravel Worlds, Trans Iowa, and a couple others. And we get in and dig into sort of what those events are made up of, how their racing has changed since taking on the events, what drew them to them. So it was a really fun conversation to have in each respect, and I'm really excited to kind of roll it out. So for the first one, we're going to kick off with a guy who I've known for a very long time. We actually started racing right around the same time, so I remember seeing him race Cat 5 for the very brief microsecond that he did, and watched him absolutely just skyrocket through the ranks to become just an unbelievable amateur racer, and just a really great guy. He's really smart, really insightful. He's a phenomenal coach, and he has a evoke.bike is his new company that he does a lot of coaching through. Great videos and great information that he's got there through his website, through his Instagram, and his YouTube channel. And I think we'll link some of the YouTube stuff into the notes here on this episode that relate to the training and to the racing he did. He's always been a really dominant road figure in the amateur scene, and was when he lived in Western New York before moving to Tennessee, and certainly has continued to be. So certainly a hardcore roadie. And I always said, I couldn't wait to see him do gravel. Can't wait to see him do gravel. And I think he heard it from a lot of people for sure. And now he's really sort of into gravel. And these long rides really suit him. The long races really suit him well. He's always been a guy who's had a huge appetite for training and big miles. So seeing him take on these really long events, I think suit him really well. And it's just cool to see him do it because he's so thoughtful. Just somebody I could sit there and talk to for hours and hours and hours. So we had a great conversation, and I'm really excited to get you into that and let you hear from a guy who just has a lot of really interesting things to say, and I think you'll learn a lot because I certainly did. So without any more babbling from me, please enjoy the first of our 3-part gravel series with the man from DNA Racing, Brendan Housler.
You'll never go out on a training ride and dig that deep.
Awesome. We won gold.
They're life rides.
I'm like, dude, I'm still figuring this out.
Lose sight of the fact that it's whoever goes faster.
This isn't a road race. This is the mountain bike race.
The sensei of sprint, Tom Jeffy.
My eyes are coming out of my head. Just get in here.
You on the bike before? Like what gets you into racing, and what's your racing background look like before you start taking on these really long gravel races?
Yeah, just, I actually had a mountain bike. It got stolen. A friend convinced me to get a road bike. I went to the Genesee Valley Cycling Club, like dragged there by a friend. Hated it. Just wasn't used to riding in groups of people. And my friend dragged me back. And I think actually the last time I was on here, we kind of talked about this in more detail. So I'll be pretty brief with it. But I came in he told me to do 3 more races. And, if you still don't like it after that, just go ride your bike. And I came in 8th, I think. And back in the day, you used to have a little barcode and they'd scan everybody. So you'd get in a line and scan. And, it's the same, it's a club race. So it's usually the same dudes. And I was like the new guy in the top 10. Felt pretty good. So I decided to go back and then met Mike Minerva. He, we just kind of clicked. He started mentoring me and helping me understand cycling. And he's super, super roady, super old school. Instilled a lot of good values as a human, but also as a bike racer in me, that I still think of today. And I got on a team as a Cat 5, because I started winning some races, and then Minerva joined, and then I became a 4 and then a 3. And he was like, dude, like, I don't really know where you're going to go race. I'm like, well, let's start a team. Let's do this. And, we picked up a guy, Drew Scholes, who was more experienced as a 3, and he kind of drove around with me and raced in Philly and New York, and just got super into the road scene. Did it for a really long time. Well, quote unquote long time. I mean, there's guys out there doing this for 30 years. I started in 2009 and then was just sole road until last year.
Yeah,
So
and you've had a really good road background. You've had a lot of success racing road. So I've always wanted to see you race gravel. Like when I started putting on gravel races
So
like 5 years ago, I was like, dude, I want to see Brendan race gravel. Now we were doing them a lot shorter distance than what you're
yeah,
doing, so I don't
yeah,
know how that plays out. And I'd like to hear sort of your thoughts on the distance for
man.
sure.
So
But
I
I
was
always
I was
wanted to see you
hesitant.
race gravel.
Yeah. So I was hesitant because a lot of people said the same thing, dude, you're going to be so good at gravel. And people don't realize that I'm really bad at biking off road. Like once I leave the pavement, things go awry. And so everyone was like, dude, you're going to be so good at cross, which I realized how much people didn't know about cycling when they told me that, because cross is the exact opposite of what I'm good at. I'm like a diesel, long power. I'll go put out a ton of watts for a really long time. That's not cyclocross.
Right.
Add in the jumping, the running. I love Belgium. The sport, it's just not for me.
Yeah.
I'll go say what's up to people at the race, but you won't see me racing a cyclocross race.
I saw you race cyclocross once.
What's that?
I saw you race cyclocross once.
That might have been like one of 2 races. I raced once at Ellison. I raced at Arrowhead.
The Apple Farm.
The Apple Farm on a mountain bike. Yeah. So I didn't have a cross bike then. I was just like, I'm gonna come out on a mountain bike and see what I can do, and got my butt kicked. So it was fun though. So so the gravel, I was like, gravel, whatever. And I ride so much in the summer. I was like, I don't know if I want to do gravel. It starts earlier, it goes later. Like it's kind of this like bush league thing. It's not even like, is it even really real? And then I got older and into, you kind of don't care if it's USAC anymore, and started doing some like Gran Fondos and had a blast. And that was actually the one thing I'll laugh at Minerva. He was always telling me like, dude, Gran Fondos you're a bike racer. Like a Gran Fondo is different. And Gran Fondos are changing in the US. They're attracting more of the race culture. I mean, I've won some big prizes at Gran Fondos, and the routes are awesome. The people are great. The scene is different. So I was like, well, maybe I'll think about this gravel thing. And DNA Cycling decided to start a gravel squad, and we got the bikes from Allied Cycle Works. Back then they had the All Road, and now they have the Able, which is a sick looking bike. I still ride the All Road, and our first race was actually Gravel Worlds last year. So Patrick Wally and I went out to Gravel Worlds. I got my bike 3 days before the race. Like there was just, the team was kind of getting put together for this year. And I'm like, I heard about it. They were talking about the bikes, and I was like, dude, we talked about the race, and everyone's like, it's too late. And I wanted to go do it. And so I kind of was just like the squeaky wheel. And they're like, dude, we'll get you the bike, but you're going to have like 1 day to get it ready. I'm like, dude, it's a bike. Like, we'll figure it out. It's definitely more than a bike. I mean, I've never had a disc brake bike. Actually, I lie. I had a mountain bike, but I didn't take care of it. So like, when you're going to go race on something, you kind of want to know it a little bit better.
Sure. Especially
had
for
a guy,
that long.
Yeah, exactly. Like, new shoes. Now you're going to wear mountain shoes. And it's just a little different geometry and just getting everything set up. But we also didn't know, like, 150 miles, is our Garmin going to run out of battery? Do we need a battery pack? Do we need, like, is everyone doing camelbacks, or do you do bottles, or how does this all work? So it was really awesome to go again this year with Patrick, having a year of experience, a year of a lot of ups and downs. I learned so much this year. It was like, this was the year I told myself, just for life, like the year of doing new things. I did a lot of things I never would have done. Just like, if something felt weird, I was like, I'm going to do it. Like, this is the year of new things. And I learned, it really was an amazing growth year for me. And the great thing to kind of look back on is I didn't have that many great results from gravel races, but I learned so much, and I've realized a lot more of what I can do for training, for things like Gravel Worlds. And that's kind of one of the impetuses behind us having Evoke Bike, kind of just all these things we've been learning. We just want to share with people, like, our story of being amateur bike racers, and we do it a lot. So we feel like we learn a lot of stuff, and just trying to help people kind of go down a path if they're excited about racing. So yeah, it's been a really cool year. Gravel is pretty awesome.
So you're coming off of Gravel Worlds. What other events did you hit this season?
So the first one was Land Run in Oklahoma, which is like the big one in Oklahoma.
Right.
Everybody out there is crazy about it. Registration goes in minutes, like Batten Kill used to. It's red clay out there, so it's a little bit different. If you get off the gravel, it can get mucky. So the big thing is, like, do you wear road shoes or do you wear mountain shoes? And do you have a paint stick to get the muck off if it's wet? And I got in a really early break accidentally, but whatever, that's kind of my MO usually. And then got down to Ted King, Payson McElveen, the guy who came in third, myself, and a guy from CCB. And unfortunately, the guy from CCB went down in a weird, like, pothole divot, and took me with him. And we were going downhill, so the bike catapulted and exploded, and wasn't rideable anymore. So I was super bummed after that one. It's like, you don't get to be in a break with Ted King with like 25 miles to go.
That's
thinking
awesome.
Maybe this could happen.
Right.
But that's bike racing, right? Like,
Yeah.
no what ifs, no whatever. It happened. And so it's like, all right, move on to the next one. The next one was Iowa Wind and Rock, which was going to be 350 miles of gravel. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Like, a buddy signed me up for it basically by saying, I get a text message, hey, do you want to try and do this gravel race in Iowa? It's the first one, and you don't even have to pay. You just put your name on this Google Doc to possibly get in. And I was on a bike ride, so I was like, sure. I put my name in, hit enter. A month later, I get this email, congratulations, you're in for the 350-mile gravel race. And I'm like, 350? What did I just sign up for? So I text the dude. I'm like, yo, do we sleep? And he's like, not if you want to win. I was like, oh, okay, game on. Let's try this. So I did a 250-mile training ride in 12 and a half hours on the road. I did a couple 200-mile rides. And I was thinking, we'll be going at a pretty easy pace, like easy-ish pace, because it's going to be 350 miles.
Sure.
We got there, and the lady's like, well, this is gravel we've never seen before because of all the rain that happened in like Iowa and Kansas and wherever this winter. They laid down really thick gravel. So it was really deep, really slow, pretty like surfy when you're going downhill, which wasn't bad because the bike never felt like it was going to go over. But uphill, if there was a headwind, you were doing like 6 to 7 miles an hour. And I was like, this is going to take a while.
Yeah.
we also didn't realize that you need like headlamps, because this one you're not allowed to use a GPS file. It's all by cue sheets. So take a wrong turn, you really pay for it.
Yeah.
Long story short to that one, mile 197, I want to say, my Di2 just goes. And not like goes red light and shifts to the easiest gear, just dies. And I'm like, okay. And I'm in second,
it hit
chasing
enough.
some guy who like went up the road. Everyone went way too hard in the beginning. Like we're like, what is going on? The first 4 hours was like a really hard 100-mile race. And then Patrick and I started passing people who were just like imploding. And we're like, why did everybody like go out so gung-ho? So one guy's down the road, probably 20 minutes. And I'm like, I can catch this guy. Di2 dies. I don't see anybody. Patrick had pulled out at the last checkpoint at mile 175. He just wasn't having a great day. I thought maybe it was my battery. Tried to mess around with some stuff. And I thought it was the battery. And we thought it was actually Shimano. Was the mechanic here had Shimano on the phone. It came down to the fact they thought it was a different firmware on the charger that like screwed up the wiring somehow. But after it happened again, like a week later, where one of the way the electronic cord comes out of the frame by the front derailleur, it was getting pinched, and it looks like it shorted the cable. So that was a disappointment. Then I go to Gravel Nationals, and it's like 100 and something miles on paper. I'm like, this is a good race for me. Joe Schmaltz was there, former pro road racer. He had a squad of 4 dudes that were like rolling pretty primo. We hit like hour 3.5. People are getting tired. There's 10 of us. I get a slow leak. I talk to my teammate Ryan, like, dude, I'm going to jump off and pump this up real quick with the CO2. I'll catch up to you. Just like try not to let them know I'm missing and don't have them like drill it. Well, they realized I got off the bike. People started drilling it. And then I realized I'm a dumbass. And when I was still getting used to changing between like road bike and gravel bike, didn't put CO2 in my bag. Yeah, dude. So I'm like, oof, you got to be kidding. Like literally looked in the saddlebag and I'm like, where are you? I can't believe I just did this. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to ride this I'm going to lean forward on the bike and I'm going to ride to the next intersection and I'm going to find a pump somewhere. Literally, so we're in the middle of nowhere, right, in Kansas, and I ride maybe a mile. And there's a race bike on the side of the road. And I'm like, that's weird. And I like stop. I look around. I'm like, what? Like this is like an oasis. And I see a frame pump. I'm like, oh my God, this guy, where is it? So I walk up to the bike and I hear a guy, hey man, I'm sorry. And I was like, oh, hey, what's up? And this guy's pooping in the woods. And he's like, my bad. I'm like, oh dude, I can't even see you. Sorry you're not feeling well. He's like, yeah, I don't know what happened, but yeah, I'm just gonna hang out here. I was like, cool. Hey, can I use your frame pump? He's like, yeah. So I tried to figure out this guy's pump. I'd never used one where like you pull out the hose, you screw it in one way. It takes me probably 5 or 10 minutes to get this thing pumped up. So the group's gone, but my tire is now back in order. So I'm like, I'm gonna catch these dudes. I'm gonna make this up, and they're gonna get tired. Unfortunately, I never caught them. They did stop at one of the oases, and they got some water. But my teammates are there pretty quick. My teammate got dropped in the last climb, and he came in second, and Joe won. So that was a bummer. Then it was kind of road season. Did a lot of racing. Had a pretty good road season. There maybe was like another gravel race here or there, and then it was Gravel Worlds, and that was awesome. Ended up getting the KOM, which was there's a jersey that they gave at the top of a climb at mile 84, and it's like a commemorative jersey to one of their friends who passed away years ago. He was hit by a car. So it definitely means a lot to the people of Lincoln, and the Gravel Worlds community is like pretty tight. The guys that run it are pretty awesome. And so we had said, hey, if we're there, we're going to go for this thing. And I actually think I got it kind of luckily because I slammed it hard up this hill and got to the top and realized I wasn't at the top. It's like a stair step. And I'm like, oof, that's not the KOM. And it's one of those things where you're just like, can't stop now. But like the initial like oversurge just kind of got other people were like, dude, this guy really wants it. And Patrick, a couple guys went, Patrick stayed on their wheel, and they realized if they like pulled anywhere close to me, Patrick would jump them. So they just kind of stopped. And so we got the jersey. Wouldn't have been able to do that as easily without Patrick there. And then the race, it got, these pit stops are definitely part of a race that I've never experienced before. As a roadie, you go through the feed zone and you get bottles.
Right.
It's looked down upon if you would even think about attacking in a feed zone. But when there's 50 people in the front group of a race like Gravel Worlds, and you roll into an oasis and there's 3 water tanks, like it's game on. So like my last video I posted on YouTube, I was like, this has to be part of your strategy. We rolled in thinking we're all going to roll in and roll out together. It got to the point where like the water line was so slow. It's a Gatorade cooler. Here's the pro tip. I just took the top off and dunked my bottle in the top. Like
nice.
People are like using this little spout, and I was like, guys, we're way smarter than this. Like, how do we get water the fastest? People already went up the road. So Patrick, myself, I forget his first name, Decker. He's like I want to say Tom, and that's not it. Carl Decker is a like really well-known pro mountain biker. He rides for a giant factory team. He's been around the block like 80 times. He's probably like mid 40s, 50, I don't know. Super in shape athlete, and probably like 10 other guys not really helping out. So we're like time trialing up to the front group who's like 3 or 4 minutes up maybe. And it gets to a point where we're like, dude, we're going to ditch these guys. Like people aren't helping out. Forget them. So Carl and I roll off the front, and he's like, he's motoring, and I'm like, dude, I'll get back on the gas when my teammate gets here. He's like, should we slow up? I'm like, nah, if I know him well enough, he'll be coming over that climb behind us. And Patrick just waits. There's very few people in the country that will keep up with him in a 1-minute segment that's not like Continental Pro. He will gap anybody, just gasses it, and I see him come over. He motors up to us, and the 3 of us are gone. But we had to TT for probably like 20, 25 minutes to get back to the front group, and those dudes were like, damn, good work. And we're like, well, lit a match to get back here, but that was the move. Like, we never saw everybody else ever again. So the Oasis is a huge point to anyone doing gravel that wants to try and stay in the front group. Like, you need to be going in there first few people. And then really it all shook out with, it's attrition at some point. 150 miles of gravel is long, and 150 miles on the road is one thing, but gravel is just, you're on the gas the whole time.
Yeah. It's definitely harder, right? We always talk about it being just twice as hard as in terms of distance. How do you equate 150 miles to the road in terms of difficulty or being on the bike?
It's a great question, because when I first started doing these longer events, I was thinking longer distance means less intensity. So longer distance will mean like more FTP riding. And that's just not the case, because you got to get over these damn hills. It's like all the gravel that we're doing is in middle America, which I always thought was like Kansas and flat, but Iowa and Nebraska, it's rolling hills. So you might still do 8 to 10,000 feet of climbing. It's just a lot of 60 to 90 minute segments. So you're still VO2 maxing a lot. I'd almost say more than road races, because we're not road racing 150 miles. If there was an equivalent, man, ask Tim Paul the work that I gave him, just over and over and over again, going really hard. Like, you can do 30 seconds on, 90 seconds off, and just do it for like an hour. Yeah. And that's some of these gravel races. Right. I don't know if there's an equation for it. The no coasting thing is going to get a lot of people.
It makes it big. And in those distances, it's got to be hard to make the equation. Like when we do our races, we're talking somewhere between 40 to 60 miles. And then you tell people, well, when it's, a 50, 60 mile gravel race is like doing 100 miles on the road, and I think it's a little more a little easier when you're talking about those shorter distances. When you're talking about 150, 300 miles, like I don't even know what you put that into.
Well, you know what we could do? We could do it the other way. So let's say if you ask most people to go out on a weekend ride with their friends and have them come back and look at how much time is in zone one, just kind of like garbage pedaling, guarantee you 30 to 40%. No doubt. It's a massive number. One of the easiest workouts, well, easiest on paper, very hard to do. Here's another great tip if you want to get into gravel. Go out and try and keep your zone one time at 10% or less of your total ride time. Sounds really easy. It's definitely not, but that is gravel. Because when you stop pedaling in gravel, your bike stops.
Right.
So it's a really good way to train. We had a guy, he now went to the armed forces, so he's not an athlete of ours, but he was the collegiate national time trial champion. And he said, you know what I got to give a lot of credit to is these stupid no coasting rides. He's like, when I first started doing them, I was like, is this really going to make any difference? He's like, I can't tell you how many races I was in where I was just like, I could just keep going. And he did some like enduro mountain biking and XC stuff and wasn't really a gravel guy, but it's so suitable for gravel racers. So that's a really easy workout people can do and implement into their training to get better for these, because it is like, so we worked backwards and said, you go do, say someone does 100 miles in 5 hours, 30% of that is really coasting. So they'd really only be able to do like 70% of a race that long. And that's the thing, these gravel races are even longer.
Right.
So it's crazy, but yeah, and that race the end was tough. We ended up getting it down to, there were maybe 6 or 8 of us, and John Borselman and I'm blanking on Eric Marcotte, who's like Mr. National Champion on the road, pro road. They took off through a town. They like John knew the roads and the turns and just pushed it fast enough, had a gap. I thought the CCB guys would chase, and they just couldn't close the gap down, and those 2 guys were gone. And then eventually became Tristan Ewell from Giant Factory, Matt Stevens from Pan Racer, who's like huge gravel name, and myself. And Tristan was hurting at times, and I, hindsight's always 20/20. I was like, I got to save something for the end, because I know the last 6 miles has some headwind and there's some like significant kickers that you can get dropped on. And I was like, nah, don't go yet. Just wait. Like, this guy looks like he's really hurting. And he had a second come around, or whatever you want to call it. And when he dropped the hammer, I had no response. And he took off. Matt Stevens took off after him. And it was basically the 3 of us TTing with like probably 45 seconds to a minute between us all to the finish. I thought I could catch Matt. Once he hit the pavement, he just took off. And so I got 5th. It's I think it's the best gravel result I've had. It's definitely a bigger race than others were. I think even at Gravel Nationals, I was still first in my quote unquote age group, which I'm not really a big age group racer, but I was pretty happy with that. I mean, I learned a lot. I know some things I can do to optimize my training, and wrote a kind of a lengthy blog post about it, so I won't bore you with all the details. But
yeah, we'll connect that into this so people could read that too, because I think people enjoy that.
Yeah, people have questions, if they like to nerd out on the training or other things like that. Happy to share my experience with that. If you can hopefully help them out, that would be awesome. But yeah, so it was cool to kind of go back to that after a year and just be way more prepared, not be completely clueless. Some of the big hitters, they went out to SBT Gravel and Steamboat in Colorado.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm curious to see who comes back next year to Gravel Worlds.
Yeah, it was kind of too bad that they scheduled those 2 on the same weekend.
What's your thoughts about that as someone who promotes events?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have anything that I should, any right to kind of impede on those guys, but yeah, I think it was unfortunate to kind of split your talent there, a little bit into 2 when there's 2 really big events, but there's so many now. There's so many gravel races now. I mean, even for us doing like the little local stuff and small gravel races, like there was nothing around to even worry about. And now when I schedule them, I got to worry about, what races here or there and, and how far away they are and those kind of things, which is good, but it's just within the last maybe 2 or 3 years, even it's just kind of exploded.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think, there was some like hubbub about that. There's always going to be competing events, and events change. And, for whatever reason, those guys chose that date. I don't know, as a racer, you're always going to have choices of other things. And you're also going to have options of not going to race. So Gravel World still sold out. They had 700 people there. SBT was the new shiny toy. They gave out 10 grand.
Yeah, I think that was kind of part of it from what I've heard and read about. The conflict too is people felt like this new event wasn't established and it came in with big money, and that maybe that doesn't go over real well always in the gravel scene. Gravel's supposed to be sort of a little more organic and
grassroots is the term I keep hearing.
Yeah, grassroots.
Man, grassroots, everybody's rolling around on carbon rims, wheels, and carbon this, and we've got super expensive bikes. Like, these Alad bikes are sick that they gave us to our team. We're really lucky to have a sponsor like that. But, I mean, is that really grassroots? I mean, we're going to race. Right. And if there's somebody that it's a business, So,
sure.
I don't know. But I
think that's usually good. That's good for things. I think that's usually good for sport. I think one of the problems with cycling is sometimes we don't care enough. Those things are discouraged sometimes. I think there's this feel of like, it's got to be grassroots, especially within gravel, but even within other forms of racing. Or if you're putting on a race, it's like, well, what are you raising money for? Sort of, instead of like, well, we're just putting on a race to put on a race and kind of building a business around the different aspects of racing. You know.
I always said, I mean, this goes back to, I think when this might date myself only having started racing in 2009, but the one that was always on any forum or anything or Facebook was Bat and Kill. Why does this race cost so much? It's like, dude, this guy's putting on a race with 3,500 people. Do you know the logistics of that? Do you know how much it costs? And guess what? It's a business. If you don't want to go, don't go. Like, who are you? It was so annoying. And, and I've really liked Dieter. He's a good dude. He does a lot for cycling. At the end of the day, Steamboat has more people on bikes, more people going out. And if you're at a bike race, this is maybe the stupid cliche thing to say or whatever, however you want to term it, but like, you're a winner. Like, you're doing something, you're exercising, you're being healthy, you're having a good time with your friends in like a really positive manner. More people riding and doing something positive. I don't think we should poo-poo on it just because somebody has the money to pay them.
Yeah, sure. So, and because somebody's running it to make money, you don't. I always equate it to other forms of entertainment. People complain about entry fees or who's making money on what. And like you said, Dieter, that was always a big one with Bat and Kill. I remember too. But it's like when you go to a concert, you don't go, well, like, is the band getting paid? When you go to Darien Lake, you don't expect to like win your ticket back.
Yeah, exactly. Like, where's my money back?
Right. Yeah. Like, when you go out to dinner, all of these things, like that's what you spend your money on. And all of those people that make that a great experience for you are getting paid to do it. And that's why it's a great experience. And if it's not a great experience, you don't go do it again. But
on the flip side is Hollenbeck's, that they didn't pay people. Like, oh, I don't do a cookie race. Like, you literally only race for the money. Like, right. And people that said that, I know, I can look up your results. You don't make much money racing. Like, why are you poo-poo on this one race? And that was a damn good course. That race was super fun. Yeah. In the middle of nowhere, New York. If I was closer, I would go do Hollenbeck's. And they would get small fields because of that. But it was still a badass day on the bike. So.
For sure.
Shout out to Hollenbeck's road race.
That was like a few years ago. Was probably the coldest road race I've ever done. It was like 38 and raining. I remember I could not get my skin suit off. Like, my fingers were so cold when I got done. Like, they didn't work. Like, trying to peel it off. It was so hard.
Man, so that's my one qualm with some of these early gravel races, like Land Run. It was 27 at the start in Stillwater. And I'm thinking, okay, the temp can only go up from here. When you ride out of the little town that's 27 and you get out to the farmland, it's 22. And I was not dressed for that. I was so damn cold. That's actually when I said I accidentally got in a break. that's how it happened. We were rolling in a group of, I don't know how many, 1,000 people are there maybe. You know, and then that goes down to like maybe 100 are racing, like taking it really, really seriously. We started rolling up a hill, and I was like, dude, I'm warming up, like I'm freezing. And I rolled off, and not Tim Johnson. Who's the guy from CCB? Sorry, I'm blanking on his name. He just won the Masters time trial for 40 to 44. Tim Mitchell. He rolls up to me, and I'm like, well, dude, let's just roll this thing for a little while because it's freezing. And so, yeah, I tried to escape the cold temperatures moving to Tennessee, and it's still haunting me in the gravel world. So we'll see what kind of changes I can make for next year.
Yeah, well, that kind of brings me to this other question I have for you, because I think part of the early season is related to this. But as we see, you know, this theme, everybody says road racing is dying and gravel sort of taking over. You were a hardcore road racer and have been very successful on that end, and now you seem pretty deep in this gravel stuff. Like, how do you feel about that? Is that, you think that that's true, that road racing is kind of dead and gravel's where it's at, or is it just sort of an influx? Like, what do you make out of that?
Yeah, no, I don't think. And actually, Dieter just posted road is dead last night, and I'm like, dude, it's not dead. I don't get in his comment section because like people like get argumentative, and it's just not worth your time. But the hashtag road never dies, I think, is a really good one. I think Dan Chabanov used to post that a lot when, even though he was a CX racer, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but you know, in New England and everything, I more thought road never died, because once it gets to like now, half your friends start riding cross, and I'm like, man, where did everybody go? And now people are doing the gravel thing, and you know, it seems like mountain biking is becoming more popular again. But road's definitely changing. I actually think in Tennessee it got a little bit better this year. Last year, some events were dismal. We're talking like P1, 2. If there weren't Cat 3s involved, it wasn't even really a great race. There was like 6 to 10 people, which was a big thing that got me thinking about gravel. I'm like, dude, I want to go race people. I want to go, you know, get in a group where like the selection initially is 40 people, not the race starting with 20 and you drop 10 at the first climb. So I think that road needs to like ditch some of the categories, you know, and I don't know the answer to this, but I know safety is an issue with some things, but like there's no categories really if you do like Masters time trials because you're riding alone. But like, what if 4s and 5s rode together, 1s and 2s and 3s rode together, give people experience of bigger races, or I don't really know what the solution is, but I think the big thing with like Gran Fondos that people like so much, I went to one in, man, where in Tennessee was this? It's like close to Knoxville, but it's called the Chihad, not the Chihad Challenge. It's the Ajala Challenge. And the reason I went was there's like an hour and 45-minute climb. It's 20 something miles, I want to say. And I was like, dude, that looks badass. I want to do that. So you toe the line with 200 people, right? And like you ride out in a massive group, and there's probably 20 guys there that can like really race. But the fact that like everyone starts together creates a way different community vibe afterwards and beforehand. And I think people leave feeling like, hey, I went to this really awesome bike thing. We all went off at the same time. And, you know, I think if I had just started out and was a Cat 5 or Cat 4 and new to the sport, like that would be super motivating to be like, man, I went and raced with 200 people. Not I went and raced 20. Right. You know? So I guess is the roundabout way. I think that road just needs to change some things, and I'm not the guy with the answers for that for sure. But these mass start events, which is what gravel is what I think creates more of a community vibe. And so I think gravel's got it. You know, there's nothing close to categories in gravel. There's no real like gravel. I guess there is a gravel USECF. They own like the gravel nationals. I'll be curious what happens with like USAC. Like, how do they dip their hand in that?
Yeah, you'd almost have to. We've looked at that, and you'd almost have to make it a road race. And with the way it's set up now, if you wanted to run a gravel race through USAC, it would basically just have to run as a road race, which I don't know, how they would allow that, but you'd have to run your categories. Because the Gran Fondo, at least last I checked, so maybe I'm wrong on this, but the Gran Fondos you can't run competitively, so you can't bill it as a Gran Fondo and award overall winners if it's a USAC.
Okay.
So you can award like sections or segments, you know what I mean? Like you could do a KOM or whatever. I don't know if that's going to change. And I know there's some events that seem to get away with it, so I don't really know how that works. Like
yeah,
it came
I
up
won't
the
call
other
any out,
day.
but I've definitely been to Grand Fondos where they have winners.
Right, and they're USAC, right? I mean, some of them just aren't USAC and they have winners. That's fine.
Got it.
Right? Like when we do our gravels, I do it through NACS because I don't want to mess with categories. I don't want people to have licenses. They want to race. And I want to do overall winners. So I'm not going to bill it as a Gran Fondo through USAC, but I also don't want to make it a categoried race through USAC because then they all got to have licenses and you're in that whole mess. And you got officials there and the whole deal. So I don't know how they're going to play with that sort of mass start, but allowing winners sort of thing. There's a really, really, really famous Gran Fondo somewhere in New York State, like a really big one that I believe is USAC that does award winners. So I don't know how that works.
Are you not saying the name because you don't want to?
I think
I was like, dude, it's literally the name of the word that you're stating the name.
But I don't know.
Very
I'm not
diplomatic of you, Tony.
Up to date on it, so I don't know. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm wrong on it. But it came up in an email conversation the other day about state championships and things like that, and how road racing is changing, and are you going to be able to keep running road races? Because like you're talking about, what you're seeing in Tennessee is the same here. Road races are really small. You're not get good size fields.
Let me ask you this, not to cut you off. In New York, I don't know if this is a Tennessee thing. I actually was I have a blog that's getting ready to get posted with this. Are the races all scored separately? Like if you have a P1-2 race, are 1s and 2s always separated? I thought we were all together. Maybe it's changed.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
So like if I'm a Cat 2 and I'm racing in a 1-2 race and I come in 8th, when I look at the results, I'm 8th. I'm not third Cat 2.
Yeah, they started. I don't know if they're doing it with 2s. They're definitely doing it with 3s. They've started scoring them out so that they can get the upgrade points.
Yeah. Okay.
So that they finish among the 3s. But then that kind of robs them too, I think, because if I'm a 3 and I beat a bunch of, if I'm scored out as a 3, but I win overall. And I beat the 1s and 2s. Well, I don't get the upgrade points based on that, I don't think.
It's such a screwed up system, and it teaches people to ride in a mediocre fashion. And in Tennessee, the big thing is to go for a jersey. So and I talked to the guy who won this. I'm not stirring a pot here at all. I basically, I don't even know if I want to get into this because it's a whole other conversation about I don't think the term negative racing is a thing. People can race however they want. I think if people decide to gang up on somebody, they better win when they do that.
Yeah.
But we have some teams here that they want to just make sure a few people don't win. But a guy won a state jersey coming in 18th.
Right.
18th.
Yeah. No, exactly.
And I said
to him,
I'm like, dude, I'm not going to take this away from you, but you're a really good bike racer and you wanted to win. You wanted to beat me in a sprint to get 18th to get a jersey, when if we had gotten in a break, you probably would have won that same sprint and you would have won the race. Right. And we had guys like Mike Olheiser in the race, Raleigh Weaver is a pro in the race, Brendan Sullivan, former world master time trial champion. Dude, you're worried about me when those hitters are here? Right. And then there's guys winning crits as 35 plus, losing to 45 plus and calling themselves the winner. It's dude, you got beat by a guy 10 years older. You're not the winner. So it's just all this road, it makes the road even worse. And again, I'll say that to somebody's face about it. Maybe it's Minerva being old school, the way I was brought up, like if you're a Cat 1 and you go to win a state championship race, even if the dudes from Canada come down and the Jersey boys come over and the guys from Philly roll up, if you don't win the race, you're not the state champ. Like, I don't want to win with the asterisk of like, oh, I was 7th, but I was first in New York.
Right.
You know?
Yep. No,
So
I'm with you, man.
So gravel eliminates that, you know? There's none of that. It's like, who won? We all started together. Who won the race?
Right.
So, you know, whatever. Getting off my soapbox.
No, I agree, man. I think that's counterintuitive to where everybody's pushing with racing too, is because everybody thinks, well, everybody wants more categories and more groups because everybody wants to be the winner among the smallest group possible, and it's just like it's exhausting.
So horrible.
And from an organizer's standpoint, it's a pain because it's like, okay, so I got to put together a podium for a group that had 3 people in it because we had to make the group so small, and then I got to have all the same awards, and so everything's fair, and I would never want to have a podium where one group gets less than another group. If you're going to do it right, if you're going to do it, you do it right. But it's just like, come on, like really, there's 3 of you. You know what I mean? Like just race for the love of the racing and not have to be on a podium every time.
We even said it at Masters Nationals, like if 35 plus and so 35 to 39 and 40 to 44 race together, dude, those 40, I mean, the 40 to 44 dudes are ripping, and that would have been a really sick road race and a really sick crit. I mean, yeah, I don't know. People need to listen to more like Gary Vee or some of these guys out there on social media that have huge followers that are like sick and tired of the everybody needs a trophy generation. Right. And I don't know. I want people to be more like self-motivated to want to, I wish Shesky was on this because I've told you this before, but like Shesky was the dude in Rochester. And when I was a Cat 4, like I was looking at that guy like that's the guy. Like at some point, I'm going to get to race that dude and I want to beat him.
Right.
And I wasn't like, how do I not race Todd Shesky? Because everybody was scared of Todd. Todd will out sprint you. He's a track beast. So in a road race, don't bring him to the line. And he's smart as hell. But it was like, don't people want that challenge? Why does everybody want to break it out? Like gravel, you better come with it. And that's the great thing is like, I've got some athletes that are like, dude, I want to be a gravel boss. And I'm like, that's sick. Now I want you to keep that motivation when I tell you who's on the start list. Because if you come in the top 30, dude, I will give you a massive hug. Because you have to have huge goals and you have to have a sick game plan, but you got to be real and be ready to look at like who you're towing the line with. Right. And, then it comes back to we're in this like training generation where in one season, people want to be like Ted King.
Right.
And they're like, well, I improved in this, but like, why am I not riding for 4 hours at 320 watts? So it's like there's a lot of gravel is exposing like a lot of things in bike racing. It's pretty cool. So, but yeah, I think
cool.
I'm still roadie, still always be roadie. I'll be G roadie for a while, and I like gravel. But I just love riding on the road. I mean, I think it's really refreshing to get on a gravel bike, go ride on back roads, but then damn, you get on a road bike and you're like, whoa, this thing is sticky to the ground. And, it's just riding on the road is irreplaceable to me.
Are there elements of road racing that you miss racing gravel? I mean, like in terms of the dynamics of the way the race breaks out? Although it sounds like when you're at the sharp end of these gravel races, it sounds a little bit more like a road race than it is for a lot of people racing gravel.
Yeah. I mean, it's I think the tactics are similar in some aspects, but it's also like it's pretty hard to get away in gravel sometimes because just there's less sneak attacking. It's a lot more like brute force, which I think might lend a good hand to me at some point. Just 'cause I like to do really long, hard rides. But road racing, the chess match is pretty bonkers. I mean, it's like actually I was just in a really good race with Novo Nordisk, and I didn't even know if I was going to make it to the last climb with these guys because they were playing the chess game so well. And luckily I had one other guy in the break, not on my team, but we were both kind of like trying to fight these guys off. They did win. And I was really happy for them. They raced it extremely well. And this guy, I always say Hamish, and it's Hamish Beadle, Australian pro like sprinter dude just ripped it with like 50 meters to go and couldn't keep up. And that type of like road scenario is just super awesome to be a part of. I don't know, gravel's a little different, but it's still really cool in its own right. And at the end of the day, I'm a cyclist well before a bike racer. So, even coming in fifth, I got to the finish line, didn't get injured, nothing broke. My bike was, still running, and you just rode 150 miles. So I love really long rides. So gravel, like, that's awesome. There's nothing like, I don't like really like 60-mile road races. Like, damn, now I want to go ride another 40 miles to make like my weekend feel good.
That's where we are vastly different, my friend. I want to do an hour and then drink beer with my friends afterward and watch.
Yes, I just like riding, dude. And that's why I could never get into the crit thing, and I never got good at. I never raced enough big crits because I hated driving 5 hours to the big crits and racing for 75 minutes. I was just like, this sucks. But so roadie, G-roadie, that's my game plan with a couple other tricks up my sleeve. Got to stay nimble with the times. I think things are continuing to change more and more each year.
No doubt. All right, G-Roadie, I'll let you run on this one, man. But we'll do it again. I think you and I could do like 3 hours. So
sounds good. Yeah, man, you get me going, dude. I just love talking about this stuff. It's good
right.
To upstage and record this again. So thanks for having me.